Hey everyone, this is Nathaniel, editor of Beginner Food. We're out in the garden today because we're here to talk about every herb and how to use them. Before we get started, go ahead and like and subscribe and we'll dive right in. All right, so today we have a large selection of herbs here that we got from our local grocery store. Many of these you'll have in yours, some you won't, but these should be the most common ones that anybody can find. Starting off here at the top, we have these long herbs. These are chives. We also have some tarragon, that might be a little harder to find, dill, mint, basil, sage, rosemary, fresh thyme, cilantro, both Italian and normal parsley, and oregano. All right, so this is a chive. Chives are in the same family as garlic and onions, and they're gonna have a similar flavor, but it's going to be a little bit more delicate. A lot of times we're gonna use chives in savory dishes. You'll see them a lot on potatoes, you see them on eggs, and you can see them cut up nice and finely to put on top of meats for garnish as well. To prepare chives, basically we're gonna take the bottom part off here. Don't want that. And then we're just going to cut small pieces off the bottom. Smaller the better, until we get nice, fine little circles of chive. All right, here we have sage. Sage is a very pungent herb. It's a little bit spicy, a little bit bitter. You definitely don't want to eat this one raw. So a good thing to do is cook this either in butter, you can fry it, you can put it in with something savory like chicken or cheese or a sauce, but definitely don't eat this one on its own. It'll be way too strong. As far as preparing sage, we're gonna pull it off of the main stalk here. So just get the leaves, just like that. And then we can cut the leaves into small pieces. You can fry these leaves whole, or just use these small pieces here. If you want them even smaller, go ahead and go across. And there we go, that's our sage. Okay, here we have oregano. Oregano is what most people will be familiar with as a taste of pizza sauce or pasta sauce. This, rather than basil, is most likely what you're tasting in those dishes. You can serve it raw. Some people put it into things like chimichurri as well. As far as preparing it, you're gonna pull these leaves off. Depends on how old your oregano is. If this stem is soft, you can cut it up in there. See, like these really thin ones, you can use those. But if they are brown or they are real stiff, you're definitely only gonna wanna pull the leaves off. So just get our oregano like that. And then these ones, some people do use them whole and some people do chop them up. So that's more however you wanna use them in your preparation. Go really great with tomatoes, as I'm sure everybody can imagine from ever having Italian food ever. And there we go, that's our oregano. Here we have fresh thyme. The most common way you'll see thyme is dried, or it'll be a much older version of thyme where this stalk is not gonna be green. It's gonna be brown, and it's gonna have kind of like a bark on it. So the fresher the thyme, the more pliable you'll see these stalks are. Thyme, flavor-wise, is actually kind of buttery. So that's why you see it a lot with things like potatoes, French fries. You can put it on eggs. You can do it with red meats. So you see it in things like stews. You can do it with steak, or use thyme to flavor your butter. But really what we're looking for here is just the leaves. And again, you're gonna have a lot more leeway with this young, fresh thyme than you will with the drier, older versions that have the wooden stalks. So you really just take one of these here and pull the leaves off. To get a little bit of the flexible stem, that's okay. No need to chop this up any smaller. Really, we're just looking for the leaves. Great for your next steak or some potatoes. There you go. That's some thyme right there. All right, so here we have the two most common forms of parsley. We have Italian flat leaf parsley over here, and we have kind of what we call garnish parsley over here. This is the standard parsley with the small curly leaves on it. Both kinds of parsley are going to have a peppery flavor to them. So any real savory food that you're going to add black pepper to, you can add parsley to. To prep them, you're going to try to avoid the stems as much as possible. So you can toss that bottom part, put it into a soup, put it into a stock, but really what we're after is the leaves. So we take the leaves and just chop that up nice and small. And that's perfectly ready to put on some food. Same thing here. Don't really want the stalks. Just after the leaves, do a rough chop. And there's our flat leaf parsley there. All right, so here we have cilantro. It looks a lot like the flat leaf parsley. You can generally tell the difference though, because if you look at the clubs on each of the leaves, they're gonna be a lot smaller than that of the parsley. So this one here is parsley, this one here is cilantro. You can see how much smaller the clubs on the fronds are. Cilantro, we're normally gonna use it in a fresh preparation. You can cook it, but most of the times it is gonna be raw. Just got to be careful. There is a small subset of the population where cilantro tastes like soap to them. So if you or somebody you know has that reaction with parsley, sorry, not parsley, cilantro, probably don't want to use it in a dish. So good to keep this one on the side. Let people garnish with it as they want. Much like the other herbs, you're going to avoid the stalks here. Don't toss them. You can save them for other like salsas and things like that, sauces, but for a garnish, we're not going to be using them. They are much stronger in flavor. So just take the very thin parts and the leaves, and then just chop it up. And there's our cilantro. All right, so here we have dill. If you've ever had a dill pickle, this is the flavor that you are tasting. It is a somewhat citrusy herb. It's got a little bit of flavor. It's got a little bit of a buttery texture to it too, just like how the thyme does. Most of the time we are using dill fresh. This is gonna be one of the most common seasonings for fish dishes. So if you're doing salmon, if you're doing trout, if you're doing any kind of fish, dill is very often used. Goes really well with lemon and other citrus. That's why we put it with fish all the time. And it does look an awful lot like fennel. So if you do have fennel fronds, make sure you smell them first. You can definitely tell by the smell. Fennel smells like licorice. Dill kind of smells like a pickle. All right, as far as using it, same thing with the other ones. We don't want these big stalks here. We're looking for the delicate fronds at the end. So just pull off the fronds there, leave the stalks. Again, you can always use the stalks in things like soup, in sauces, anything like that to get flavor out of, but you're not gonna eat these straight. This is the part that you wanna put either on or in your fish, your chicken, whatever it is. You can cut these up smaller, or you can use them whole. All right, if you're ever familiar with London herb, it's probably this one. This is fresh basil. It is a sweet herb. You can put it on pretty much anything. It's not very overpowering. Goes really good in all Italian food. Goes nice with fruit. You can put it with peaches, you put it in a salad, eat it with some strawberries. Even in some desserts, you can use basil. So not something that we really have to go over too much because most people have had this one. My only recommendation, whenever you can, use the fresh one. As far as preparation goes, avoid the stalks if you can. And then you've got your basil there. You can use them in full leaves, or you can do a fancy chiffonade where you stack the leaves together, roll them up, and cut them into little ribbons. And so now we have these little ribbon cuts of our basil. All right, one of the other herbs most people will be familiar with, this is rosemary. Again, this is fresh whenever you can. Try to use fresh herbs. The flavor is much more delicate. Also, you can use them for a much prettier garnish in your dishes. With rosemary, you definitely don't want to eat the stem. That's just going to taste like wood. So pull off just the leaves, and then you're going to want to cut this stuff up real small. It is very strong, just like the sage, so if you can cook it, all the better. Goes really good in butter. The flavor really disperses well in fats. So again, butter, if you're frying something, good place to put rosemary. Goes great on your potatoes too. But again, most people are gonna be pretty familiar with this stuff. Cut it nice and small. And there we go, use our rosemary. Okay, so this is one that maybe not everyone's gonna have access to. Even over here, it's kind of hard to find in San Diego. This is tarragon. It's a kind of sweet floral herb. It's almost got a cardamom or even a little bit of a cinnamon vanilla flavor to it. So it's almost like a sweet spice in an herb form. A lot of times you are gonna see it cooked. It's really common with poultry. So if you buy a poultry blend or you buy a French blend of herbs, a lot of times it's gonna have tarragon in it. Turkey, for example, really common to see with tarragon. Same thing with a lot of chickens. So tarragon, same thing. You wanna get mostly the leaves. Depending on how fresh your tarragon is, you may wanna use the stem too, but definitely not these thick ones, and never if they're brown. If the stem's brown, just throw it out. These little tiny ones here, these ones you can get away with, but we're gonna go just to the leaves. So pull the leaves off. And get a couple more here. Chop that up nice and fine. And then this is ready to season. Really common thing to do would be like mix this with a butter and make a tarragon butter. Again, the flavor disperses really well into fats. A lot of these poultry herbs do. This is one of them. And then you can either put that in for your marinade, your basting, whatever you want to do. We like putting it right underneath the skin of a turkey before we roast it. It tastes delicious. So we saved mint for last because a lot of people probably aren't thinking of putting mint into their food as an herb. Mint is an herb. It is used in a lot of savory dishes, so don't just think of it as a dessert flavor. It's not just for gum. Mint is pretty commonly in the Middle East for things like lamb. These are a lot in salads. So if you're doing like a cucumber salad, a lot of times you will have mint in that. As far as mint goes, do not use the stems. That's going to be way too strong. You're looking at just these leaves. Not only do they make really good garnish, but they release so much aromatics and flavor when you cut it up. So just do nice small pieces of mint. You can do long, thin strips, just like that. And just put a little bit of this with your, like I said, lamb. Really goes great with that, or in a nice salad. All right, and that's all of our common herbs. Hopefully this encourages you guys to use more fresh herbs in your cooking every day. For more content like this, make sure you like and subscribe and check out Beginner Food. Thank you.